The big school floated in space above a planet called Centris Prime. It was a special place where young aliens from all over the galaxy came to learn. The building had tall towers made of crystal that caught light from 3 suns. For 200 years, the smartest students from different worlds studied here. They learned about science, medicine, and how to explore space. But in all those years, no human had ever been allowed to study there. Katie Morrison was 15 years old. She stood in the main hall of the school on her first day. Everything around her was huge. The doors were tall. The chairs were big. Even the other students were much taller than her. The school was built for aliens who were 7 to 9 feet tall. Katie felt very small. She watched the other students walk past her. A creature with 6 arms slid by, carrying several computer tablets. Another student was made of crystal and left rainbow trails as it moved. 2 large warriors with scales talked in deep voices that made her ear translator buzz. Katie was the only human in the whole school. She was the first human ever accepted here. Earth had just become a new member of the Galactic Council. The council leaders told her parents that Katie going to this school would show everyone that humans were ready to join the galaxy. Her father was not so sure about this idea. Captain Jake Morrison worked for the Earth Defense Fleet. The night before Katie left home, he asked her a question. "You sure about this, kiddo? These aliens have been flying through space for thousands of years. We only just started leaving our solar system." Katie had an answer ready. "That is exactly why I need to go, Dad. I need to learn. I need to show them we belong out here with them." Now, standing in the big hall, Katie wondered if she had been too confident. A voice spoke behind her. Well, what do we have here?" Katie turned around. 3 students were walking toward her. The one who spoke was purple with hard shell-like skin. Behind him was a female with 4 eyes that blinked one at a time. The third was very large with thick skin covered in bone bumps. All 3 wore silver badges that showed they were 3rd-year students. Katie tried to sound brave. "I am Katie Morrison. I am a 1st-year student." The purple alien had a name badge that said Zexthar. He walked slowly around her. "A human? I heard stories about this, but I did not believe them. Tell me, little creature, how did something so primitive get into our school?" Katie kept her voice steady, same way as everyone else. "I passed the tests." The female with 4 eyes laughed. It sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "The tests must be getting easier. Humans only learned to fly faster than light 15 years ago. My people have been exploring the galaxy for 40,000 years." Katie spoke before she could stop herself. "Then you have had a long time to practice being humble." The big alien made a low growling sound that made the floor shake. Zexthar held up one clawed hand. His mouth parts clicked. He might have been amused or angry. "Spirit, I like that. Let us see how long it lasts." He bent down so his face was level with Katie's. This school was built by the great species of the galaxy, not for primitives who still use old rockets and think nuclear power is advanced. You do not belong here, human, and we are going to make sure you understand that. Before Katie could say anything, a bell rang through the hall. Students began moving toward their classrooms. Zexthar and his friends walked away, but they looked back at her. Their looks promised that this was not over. Katie found her first class. It was called Advanced Quantum Mechanics. The seat was made for someone twice her size. She had to put her backpack on the chair just to see over the desk. Some students laughed when they saw this. The teacher came in. He was an old alien with 6 eyes named Professor Vexlan. He started teaching right away. The lesson was hard. Equations appeared on floating screens faster than Katie could read them. But she had studied hard for this. She understood the ideas, even though the alien writing took her a moment to figure out. Halfway through the class, Professor Vexlan asked a question. Nobody answered. The professor's 6 eyes looked around the room. Then they stopped on Katie, the human. "What is your name?" "Katie Morrison, sir." "Miss Morrison, can you solve the equation I just showed?" Katie looked at the floating screen. The problem was complicated. It was about quantum physics and multiple dimensions, but she could see an elegant answer if she thought about it the right way. "Yes, sir. If you use the Heisenberg-Morrison principle and account for dimensional bleed, the answer becomes simpler." She worked through the steps out loud. Her voice got stronger as she explained the solution. Professor Vexelan's antenna moved in what might have been surprise. Several students whispered to each other. "Correct," the professor said. "Impressive. Most first-year students struggle with that idea for weeks." Katie allowed herself a small smile. Maybe this would not be so bad after all. But when class ended and she gathered her things, Zexithar appeared next to her desk. "Lucky guess," he said quietly with anger in his voice. "Do not think one correct answer makes you one of us." Katie looked right at him. She had dealt with bullies before, back on Earth. It was the same thing, even if this bully was 8 feet tall and had scary mouth parts. "I do not need your approval," she said quietly. "I am here to learn, not to make friends with people who judge others by where they come from." She walked past him with her head up high. Her heart was beating fast in her chest. This was only the first day. She had 4 more years of this ahead of her. But Katie Morrison was her father's daughter, and Morrisons did not quit. She would not give up, no matter how hard they tried to make her leave. She belonged here just as much as anyone else. She would prove it. The weeks passed and a pattern formed. Katie did very well in her classes. She often got better grades than students who had grown up learning about space travel and physics from childhood. Her teachers noticed how good she was. Some were surprised. Some were impressed. But outside the classroom, life at the school was getting harder and harder. Zexithar and his friends made it their job to remind Katie that she did not belong. It started small. Her computer tablet would stop working and lose all her notes. Her food in the cafeteria would get knocked over. The temperature in her room would change, making it too hot or too cold. Katie told the school security about these things, but she had no proof. The bullies were careful. They only did things where cameras could not see them. They always had an excuse. By the 3rd month, things got worse. Katie was working late in one of the science labs. She was building a project for her mechanics class. The lab was mostly empty. Just her and a few other students working late at night. She was so focused on fixing a special device that she did not notice Zexithar and his friends come in. "Still here, human." Zexithar's voice was full of hate. "Do you not have a primitive little planet to go back to?" Katie stood up straight and put down her tools. The other students in the lab had quietly left. She did not know if they left because they were scared or because they did not care. "I have as much right to be here as you do," she said firmly. The 4-eyed female named Lixvara walked behind her. "Do you? The school accepted you as a political gesture. Everyone knows it. You are a token, a symbol, not a real student. My grades say otherwise." Zexithar picked up Katie's project. He looked at it with fake interest. "What is this?" "A graviton emitter. Cute, my species built better versions of these 10,000 years ago." "Put it down," Katie said. Her voice was level, but she was starting to feel scared. Instead, Zexithar held the device higher. He dangled it over the edge of the table. Katie had worked on this for weeks. The parts were expensive. She could not afford to buy new ones with her small student allowance. "What is the matter?" "Afraid I will drop your little toy," I said. "Put it down." Zexithar's mouth parts clicked like he thought this was funny. Then he opened his claws. The device fell and broke on the floor. The delicate pieces scattered across the lab. 3 weeks of work was destroyed in 1 second. Katie stared at the broken pieces. Her hands became fists. "Why?" she asked quietly. "What did I ever do to you? You exist," Zexithar replied. "You represent a species that thinks it deserves a seat at the table when you have barely learned to walk. Humans are primitive, violent, and reckless. You do not belong among civilized species. You are the ones being violent right now." The big male named Grulthak stepped forward. "Careful, human. You are very small. Accidents happen in labs all the time." For the first time since coming to the school, Katie felt really afraid. She was alone. No one was there to help. These 3 beings could easily hurt her. Her hand moved to the emergency communication device on her belt. Zexithar saw her hand move. He laughed. He reached out and grabbed the device from her belt. He crushed it in his claw like it was paper. "No one is coming to save you, human. This is your reality now. Every day we will be here, making your life difficult, making you wish you had never left your little backwater world. Eventually, you will break. You will leave. And the galaxy will forget that humanity ever tried to join us." He leaned in close. His voice became a threatening whisper. "And if you report this, if you tell anyone, we will make sure the next accident is much worse. Do you understand?" Katie looked at him. She refused to look away even though every part of her wanted to run. "I understand that you are afraid," she said quietly. That caught him off guard. "Afraid? Of what?" "That I am better than you. That a primitive human from a backwater world can outthink, outwork, and outlast you. That is why you are doing this. Because deep down, you know that in a fair competition I would win. For a moment she thought she had pushed too far. Zexthar's whole body went stiff. His mouth parts spread wide in what was clearly a threat. Grolthak cracked his knuckles. Each crack sounded like a gunshot in the quiet lab. Then Zexthar laughed. It was a cruel, cold sound. Brave words for someone so small and fragile. Let us see how long that courage lasts. They left her there with the broken pieces of her project. Katie waited until she could not hear their footsteps anymore. Then she sat on the floor. Her hands were shaking. She picked up the broken pieces of her device. She knew it could not be fixed. That night, alone in her room, Katie wrote a message to her father. She wrote about the harassment. She wrote about the destroyed project. She wrote about the threats. Her finger stayed over the send button for a long time. Then she deleted the message. Her father was commanding a fleet in the outer colonies. He was dealing with space pirates who were attacking Earth's mining operations. He did not need to worry about school bullies. Besides, what could he do from halfway across the galaxy? Katie had gotten herself into this situation. She would handle it herself. She had no idea how bad things were about to become. But she was determined to keep going. She would not let them win. She would not quit. That was not what Morrisons did. The harassment got worse over the next few weeks. Zexthar and his friends seemed to take Katie's defiance as a personal challenge. They got other students to help them. Some students were happy to make the human's life miserable for fun. Others did it for species pride. Some did it just to be cruel. Katie's things would disappear. Her room would be vandalized in small ways that school security could not prove were not accidents. When she needed a partner for group work in class, nobody would work with her. In the cafeteria, she ate alone while other students whispered and pointed at her. But Katie did not give up. She rebuilt her project. She worked twice as hard in the lab. She studied even more. She was determined to prove through her excellent work what she could not prove through acceptance. Her grades stayed perfect. Teachers praised her, and with each thing she accomplished, Zexthar's campaign got more desperate. Everything came to a head during midterm exams. The advanced quantum mechanics exam was very hard. It was a 3-hour test that covered everything from basic particle physics to advanced theories about multiple universes. Katie had studied for weeks. She often stayed up late into the station's fake night to memorize equations and practice problems. She entered the exam room feeling confident and prepared. But when she sat down and turned on her computer tablet, her heart sank. The exam was written in Corvan script. The school's normal language was Galactic Common. All students had to know it, but each exam could be taken in a student's native language. This was to make sure nobody was disadvantaged by translation problems. Someone had changed Katie's settings to request the Corvan version. Katie raised her hand right away. Professor Vexelan came over. His 6 eyes blinked with concern. "Professor, there has been a mistake. My exam is in the wrong language." The professor checked her tablet. Then he checked his own device. His antenna drooped. Katie had learned this meant he was distressed. "The system shows you requested the exam in Corvan script," he said quietly so other students would not hear. "Did you not submit this preference?" "No, sir. Someone must have accessed my account and changed it." Professor Vexelan looked troubled. He also looked conflicted. The exam had already started. School policy was very strict about preventing cheating. Changing a student's exam in the middle of the test was forbidden, even if there were technical errors. "I am sorry, Miss Morrison. Once an exam starts, we cannot change it. You will have to complete this version or take a 0. Katie looked at the strange script on her screen. Then she looked across the room. Zexthar was sitting there. His mouth parts were clicking. He was trying not to laugh. She had 3 choices. She could take the 0 and fail the course. That would end her academic career at the school. She could file a formal complaint and demand an investigation. That would take weeks and make her look like a troublemaker. Or she could attempt the impossible. Katie Morrison was her father's daughter. She did not quit. She did not complain. She solved problems. "I will take the exam as it is," she told the professor. Professor Vexelan was clearly surprised, but he nodded and went back to his desk. Katie stared at the alien writing. Corvan writing used geometric patterns. Each shape represented complex ideas instead of simple sounds or letters. She had never formally studied it. But she had spent months living with aliens. She had been observing, learning, and adapting. She recognized some patterns from signs around the station. Others she could figure out from context. The math equations themselves were universal. Math did not change just because the symbols were different. If she could work backward from the mathematics to understand what the questions were asking, she might have a chance. Katie started to write. It was slow, painful work. For every problem she felt confident about, there were 2 others where she had to guess at the meaning. She worked through lunch. She worked through the normal time limit. She used every second of the extra time the professor kindly allowed. When she finally submitted her answers, her head hurt badly. Her vision was blurred from staring at the screen so long. She had no idea if she had passed or failed completely. The results were posted 3 days later. Katie scored 92%. It was the highest grade in the class. The news spread through the school like wildfire. The human had taken an exam in a language she did not speak and still did better than everyone else. Students who had ignored her before now looked at her with something close to respect. Teachers discussed her performance in their meetings, but for Zexthar it was the final insult. 2 nights after the results came out, Katie was walking back to her room. She was going through one of the less traveled corridors of the station. She was exhausted from another long study session for her next exam. She did not see them until it was too late. Zexithar, Lixvara, Grulthak, and 2 others she did not know surrounded her. They were in a maintenance corridor where the cameras had mysterious problems. Their body language was aggressive and hostile. This was not harassment anymore. This was something much darker. Congratulations on your exam score, Zexthar said. His voice was full of poison. You must be very proud. Very smug, let me pass, Katie said. She tried to keep her voice steady. I do not want any trouble. But trouble is what you are getting. You see, we have tried to be subtle. We have tried to make you understand that you do not belong here. But you are too stubborn, too proud. So now we need to be more direct. Katie's hand went to her communication device. Then she remembered that Zexithar had destroyed it weeks ago. She had not been able to afford a new one yet. No one knows you are here, Lixvara said. Her 4 eyes glinted with cruelty. No one will find you for hours. Plenty of time for you to have a very unfortunate accident. They moved forward. Katie backed against the wall. Her mind raced through her options. She was probably faster than them. But they blocked both exits. She was smarter than them. But intelligence was not much use against physical force. She was about to make a desperate run for it when a voice came through the corridor. Step away from my daughter. Everyone froze. The voice had come from the station's public speaker system, but it carried a weight of authority that made even Zexthar stop. Then the lights in the corridor began to flash red. It was an emergency signal, and through the windows that showed outside, something massive blocked out the stars. The Earth Defense Fleet Dreadnought Valkyrie was not made to be quiet or subtle. It was 2 kilometers long. Weapons covered its surface. Sensors and equipment stuck out everywhere. It was a monument to human military engineering. It was also much too large to dock at a civilian school station. Captain Jake Morrison did not care about technical rules. The Valkyrie's approach set off every alarm at the Galactic Academy. Students and teachers ran to windows to stare at the huge warship. It moved with impossible grace for something so large. It was smaller than the school station, yes, but it was still enormous, still threatening, still very much able to destroy the entire building if its captain wanted. Katie watched through the corridor window. Her fear was replaced by shock for a moment. She knew that ship. She had visited it when it was first commissioned. It was her father's pride and joy, the most advanced warship humanity had ever built, and it was moving into position directly above the school's main landing pad. What have you done? Zexithar said with fear in his voice. His earlier confidence was gone. That is a military ship. This is a neutral school zone. They cannot be here. I did not do anything, Katie replied, but she was starting to understand what was happening. Her father must have found out somehow. He must have dropped everything to come here. The station's communication system crackled to life again. This time everyone could hear it. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet. I am requesting permission to dock, a nervous voice responded. It was probably the station's traffic controller. Sir, your ship is far too large for our docking facilities. We do not have the capacity for a ship of that size. Please keep your distance and we can arrange shuttle transport. I am afraid that will not work for me. I am coming in, sir. I must protest. You do not have clearance to come any closer. This is a violation of many treaties and regulations. Noted. Tell the dean I will be landing on the roof in about 3 minutes. I suggest you clear the area. The corridor where Katie stood became chaos. Zexthar and his friends scattered. The threat of violence was forgotten. There was a much bigger and more immediate problem. Katie ran toward the nearest observation deck. It seemed like half the station's population was pressing against the windows to watch. The Valkyrie came down with grace. Something that large should not move so smoothly. Its huge mass filled the view as it positioned itself over the school's central building. The building had a large open platform on its roof. It was designed for students to look at stars and do astronomy observations. It was not designed to hold a 2-kilometer warship. But the Valkyrie did not land its whole weight. Instead, it extended its lower boarding ramp. This was a massive piece of equipment that could deploy and retrieve whole battalions of troops. The ramp touched down on the roof with surprising gentleness. It spread its weight across structural supports that groaned but held. The ship's huge engines stayed active. Thrusters fired in tiny bursts to keep position without putting full weight on the structure. It was an incredible show of piloting skill. It was also completely unauthorized, potentially illegal, and definitely the most dramatic entrance anyone at the school had ever seen. Katie ran toward the roof access. Her heart was pounding. She knew she was probably in trouble. Her father had just violated many regulations to get here, but underneath the worry was a deep sense of relief. Someone had come for her. Someone cared enough to move mountains of military rules and international law to make sure she was safe. By the time she reached the roof, security had blocked off the area, but they seemed unsure what to do about the huge warship currently parked on their building. The dean stood at the edge of the safety barrier. She was an old alien named Crystal Thought of Winter. Her crystal body was refracting the light from the Valkyrie's engines into nervous rainbows. The boarding ramp's airlock opened with a hiss of air. Captain Jake Morrison came out. Katie could not help but smile despite everything. Her father looked exactly like what he was, a combat veteran who had spent 20 years in the military, someone who had fought in wars and conflicts, someone who had commanded ships in battles that saved colonies and protected trade routes. He wore his dress uniform. The dark blue fabric was crisp and clean. It was decorated with enough medals and ribbons to make his rank and experience clear. He was also, Katie noticed with some surprise, accompanied by a full honor guard of Marines in combat armor. The dean approached. Her voice tried to sound stern despite the obvious nervousness in her crystal structure. Captain Morrison, I must protest this breach of protocol. You have no authority to land a military ship at this facility. Jake Morrison looked past her. His eyes scanned the crowd until they found Katie. His expression softened a little. Then it hardened again as he looked at her appearance. Even from far away, he could see the strain, the exhaustion, the evidence of months of harassment. Dean Crystal Thought of Winter, he said formally. I appreciate your position. However, I received information that my daughter was in immediate danger. As her legal guardian and as a representative of Earth's military, I am exercising my right to ensure her safety. Immediate danger. That is a serious claim. If you have evidence of such danger, you should have contacted school security through proper channels. I did. 3 weeks ago, and 2 weeks before that, and a month before that, my daughter filed multiple reports of harassment and threats. Your security department assured me they were investigating, but the incidents continued to get worse. The dean's crystal structure flickered. It might have been embarrassment. I was not aware of the full extent of the situation. Then perhaps we should discuss it. But first I would like to speak with my daughter. Katie pushed through the crowd. She went under the security barrier. Her father met her halfway. For a moment, the stern military commander disappeared. He was just a dad checking on his daughter. You okay, kiddo? He asked quietly. Katie nodded. She did not trust her voice. She had been so determined to handle everything herself, to not burden her father with her problems. But now that he was here, she realized how much she had needed someone on her side. How did you know? She managed to ask. Admiral Chen's daughter is a second-year student here. She sent her father a message about what was happening to you. The Admiral contacted me immediately. Katie blinked in surprise. She did not even know Admiral Chen's daughter. They had never spoken. The girl must have seen some of the harassment and decided to act. I dropped everything and got here as fast as I could, her father continued. When I accessed the station's security recordings and saw what was happening in that corridor tonight, I decided protocol could wait. He looked past her at the crowd of students. His expression became hard again. Where are they? Dad, do not... Where are they? Katie knew there was no stopping him now. Her father had come all this way. He had landed a warship on the school's roof. He was not going to leave without dealing with the students who had threatened his daughter. And honestly, after everything she had been through, Katie was ready to let him. The meeting in the dean's office was tense. Captain Morrison had insisted on a formal review of everything that had happened to his daughter. Given that he had just landed a warship on the school's roof, the dean was in no position to refuse. The meeting included Katie, her father, the dean, the head of school security, and 5 very nervous students. Zexthar, Lixivara, Grolthak, and the 2 others who had been in the corridor. Captain Morrison had brought evidence. Lots of evidence. His technical team had spent the flight to the school analyzing months of security footage. They had cross-referenced incident reports. They had built a complete case of systematic harassment. The evidence played on the office's floating screens. The atmosphere grew more and more uncomfortable. There was Katie's destroyed project. Her sabotaged exam settings. The corridor confrontation that had been interrupted by the Valkyrie's arrival. Dozens of smaller incidents. Each one seemed minor on its own, but they added up to a pattern of sustained intimidation. The dean watched in silence. Her crystal form grew darker. Katie had learned to recognize this as anger. "This is unacceptable," she said finally. "This school was founded on principles of cooperation and mutual respect among species. What you have done violates everything we stand for." Zexthar finally spoke. His mouth parts clicked nervously. "We never actually hurt her. We were just trying to make her understand that she did not belong." Captain Morrison's expression was cold. "You cornered a 15-year-old girl in an isolated corridor and threatened her with physical violence. In my world, we call that assault. What would you call it?" "We were just trying to scare her into leaving," Lixivara said defensively. "Humans do not belong at this school. You are too primitive, too aggressive, too..." "Too what?" Katie interrupted. Her voice was quiet but firm. "Too successful. I did better than all of you in every class we shared. I solved problems you could not. I passed an exam in a language I do not even speak, and still scored higher than anyone in the class. Is that why you did this? Because I proved that humans are just as capable as any other species." The silence that followed was heavy. Finally, Grolthak spoke. His voice was low, almost ashamed. "My people have been part of the Galactic Council for 16,000 years. We built ships that could cross the galaxy before your species learned to write. And then you show up, barely out of your own solar system, and you excel at everything. You make us look slow, lazy. Like maybe all those thousands of years of advancement do not mean as much as we thought they did." Katie stared at him, then at the others. Finally, she understood. This was not really about her. It was about what she represented. Humanity had gone from primitive chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel in less than a century. They had developed technologies in decades that had taken other species thousands of years. They were aggressive, yes, but also innovative, adaptable, quick to learn. They were threatening to upset the established order of the galaxy. "So you decided to break me," Katie said, "to prove that humans could not compete, that we were just lucky primitives who would crack under pressure." Zexthar looked away. He could not meet her eyes. The dean stood. Her form became hard angles. "Regardless of your reasons, your actions are inexcusable. You are all hereby expelled from this school, effective immediately. Your families will be notified. This incident will be documented in your permanent academic records." The 5 students reacted with shock and protest. But Captain Morrison silenced them with a look. "Dean, if I may," he said. "I would like to make an alternative suggestion." The dean turned to him. She was curious. "Go ahead, Captain. Expulsion teaches them nothing except resentment. It does not address the underlying prejudice that caused this situation. I would like to propose a different consequence." Katie looked at her father in surprise. She had expected him to demand the harshest possible punishment. Instead, he seemed to have something else in mind. "These students are obviously talented or they would not be here. But they lack perspective. They have never had to struggle. never had to prove themselves against a species that supposedly has every advantage. I suggest they be required to complete a semester-long project on Earth, living and working alongside humans, learning about our culture and history. Let them see firsthand what humanity has accomplished and what we are capable of. Then let them return to complete their education here, with a better understanding of why the Galactic Council accepted humanity as a member species. The Dean considered this. Her form shifted through various colors as she thought. Finally, she nodded. An interesting proposal. It has merit. The goal of this school is education, after all, not merely punishment. She turned to the 5 students. You will spend the next semester on Earth, participating in an intensive cultural exchange program. You will live with human families. You will attend human educational institutions. You will complete a comprehensive study of human civilization and achievement. Your return to this school will depend on successful completion of this program and a demonstrated change in attitude. Do you accept these terms? The students looked at each other. Then they reluctantly nodded. It was better than permanent expulsion. They knew it. After the meeting ended and everyone had left, Katie found herself alone with her father on the roof observation deck. The Valkyrie still hovered above them, a massive shadow against the stars. You did not have to come all this way, Katie said quietly. I would have figured something out. Her father smiled. I know you would have. You are strong, Katie. Stronger than I was at your age. But being strong does not mean you have to face everything alone. I did not want to worry you. You have important work to do. Nothing is more important than making sure you are safe and supported. That is my job as your father. It is a job I take seriously. He paused and looked up at his ship. Besides, it gave me an excuse to demonstrate some of Earth's military capabilities. I think we made quite an impression. Katie laughed despite herself. Landing a warship on the roof of a civilian station? Yeah, I would say that is memorable. The Galactic Council has been debating whether to upgrade humanity's status from provisional member to full member. I suspect this little incident will factor into their discussions. We showed them that humans do not back down when our people are threatened, that we have both the capability and the will to protect our own. You used me as a political statement. Captain Morrison's expression softened. I used the situation to make a point that needed to be made, but I came here for you, kiddo, only you. The political implications were just a bonus. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the stars. So what happens now? Katie asked. Do I stay here? Transfer somewhere else, that is up to you. If you want to leave, I will support that decision. If you want to stay and continue your education here, I will support that too. But know that if you stay, things will be different now. Word is going to spread about what happened. Some students will respect you more. Others might resent you for getting their classmates in trouble. It will not be easy, Katie thought about it. She had come here to learn, to prove that humanity belonged among the stars. She had faced opposition, harassment, and real danger. But she had also done very well in her classes. She had made at least one friend in Admiral Chen's daughter. She had shown that humans could compete with species that had thousands of years of advantage. I want to stay, she said finally. Running away now would prove Zexithar and his friends right, that humans cannot handle the pressure, that we do not belong. I need to finish what I started. Her father nodded. Pride was clear in his expression. Then you will stay, and I will make sure the school knows that Earth is watching. If anyone gives you trouble again, they will have to answer not just to the Dean, but to the entire Earth Defense Fleet. Dad, you cannot threaten an entire school. I just landed a warship on their roof. I think I have already established my willingness to bend the rules when necessary. He grinned. Besides, it is not a threat. It is a promise. Humanity protects its own. That is the message we need to send to the galaxy. 3 days later, Captain Morrison left. He took the Valkyrie and its crew back to their patrol duties. But before he left, he made sure to have very public conversations with the Dean. He talked with the head of security. He spoke with several important members of the teaching staff. The message was clear. Earth was watching. Earth cared about what happened to its citizens. Katie returned to her classes. She found the atmosphere had changed. Some students kept their distance. They were unsure how to act around someone whose father had just staged a military intervention. But others came to her with real respect. They were impressed by her academic achievements. They were impressed by her strength in the face of harassment. Admiral Chen's daughter was named Sophie. Katie learned she was studying alien biology. Sophie became a fast friend. Through Sophie, Katie met a small group of students. They had been watching the situation. They had disapproved of Zexthar's campaign, but they had not known how to help. Professor Vexelan took a special interest in Katie's education. He recognized her exceptional talent. He made sure she had the resources and support she needed to excel. Other teachers did the same. They saw in Katie an example of what was possible when prejudice was set aside, when talent was allowed to grow. The 5 expelled students left for Earth the next week. Katie watched them board the transport ship. She wondered what they would learn during their time on humanity's homeworld. She hoped they would come back with a better understanding of her people. She hoped they would see that different did not mean inferior, that being young as a species did not mean being incapable, that humanity's rapid advancement was something to celebrate, not fear. 6 months passed. Katie was working on a difficult project in the engineering lab. Zexthar walked in. She became tense immediately. Old reflexes kicked in. But when he came to her workbench, his posture was different, less aggressive. Almost respectful, Morrison, he said. He used her last name. This was customary in the school. May I speak with you? Katie put down her tools. She was cautious but willing to listen. Go ahead. Zexthar was silent for a moment. His mouth parts worked like he was struggling to find the right words. Finally, he spoke. I spent 6 months on Earth. I lived with a family in a city called Boston. They were scientists like my family. They showed me human history, human culture, human achievement. He paused. I went there expecting to find primitives barely out of the caves. Instead, I found a civilization that went from its first powered flight to landing on its moon in less than 70 years. A species that nearly destroyed itself with nuclear weapons, and then chose not to. People who faced challenges that could have made them extinct. They overcame them through cooperation and innovation. Katie waited. She let him continue. I learned about a human named Marie Curie. She discovered radioactivity while working in conditions that eventually killed her. About a man named Martin Luther King. He fought for equality knowing it would cost him his life. About thousands of ordinary humans who did extraordinary things. Not because they had advanced technology or long lifespans, but because they refused to accept limitations. He looked directly at Katie. His multiple eyes held her gaze. I was wrong about your species. About you. You do not belong here despite being human. You belong here because you are human, because humanity brings something to the galaxy that we have lost over thousands of years of comfortable advancement. You bring urgency, innovation, the refusal to accept that something is impossible just because it has never been done before. Katie felt something tight in her chest loosen a little. She had never expected an apology from Zexthar, much less this kind of understanding. Thank you, she said simply. That means more than you know. Zexthar nodded. I know I cannot undo what I did. The harassment, the threats, the fear I caused you, but I wanted you to know that I understand now. And if you are willing, I would like to start over. Not as enemies. Perhaps eventually as colleagues who respect each other's abilities. Regardless of where we come from, Katie thought about this. Trust once broken was hard to rebuild, but forgiveness was also important. And if Zexthar had truly learned and changed, rejecting his attempt at making peace would only continue the cycle of prejudice. Starting over sounds good, she said finally, but it will take time, and you will have to prove through your actions that you mean what you say. I understand, and I will. The years passed. Katie Morrison went on to graduate at the top of her class from the Galactic Academy. She published groundbreaking research on quantum field manipulation. It completely changed faster than light travel. She became an ambassador for human-alien cooperation. She worked to build bridges between species that had always been suspicious of each other. On the day of her graduation, she stood on the same roof where her father had once landed a warship to protect her. She looked out at the assembled students and teachers. She gave a speech that would be remembered for generations. We are all different, she said. Different species, different cultures, different histories. Some of us have been traveling the stars for thousands of years. Others, like my people, are just beginning our journey. But those differences are not weaknesses. They are our strength. Each species brings unique perspectives, unique solutions, unique gifts to the galactic community. The question is not whether we are worthy of being here, The question is whether we are wise enough to learn from each other." She paused. She looked out at the crowd. "I came to this school as the first human student. I faced challenges that had nothing to do with academics, everything to do with prejudice. But I also found allies. I found teachers who valued talent over tradition. I found fellow students who judged me by my character and achievements, not by my species. And I found that even those who began as enemies could become colleagues, even friends. When given the chance to understand rather than fear," she smiled. She thought of her father watching from Earth, proud of what she had become. "So to the students who will come after me, human and alien alike, I say this: never let anyone tell you that you do not belong. Never let fear of the unknown make you cruel. And never forget that the measure of a civilization is not how long it has existed, but how it treats those who are different. We are all citizens of the galaxy now. Let us act like it." The applause was huge. It echoed off the crystal towers of the school. It went out into the vast space beyond. And somewhere in the distant stars, Captain Jake Morrison smiled. He knew that his daughter had done exactly what humanity did best. She had proven that they belonged. Katie's story became famous throughout the galaxy, not just because she was the first human to graduate from the Galactic Academy, but because of what she represented. She showed that newcomers could bring fresh ideas, that rapid advancement was not something to fear. That diversity made everyone stronger. Other humans followed in her footsteps. More and more young humans applied to the academy. They came with Katie's story as inspiration. The school that had once closed its doors to humanity now competed to recruit the brightest human students. Zexthar kept his word. He and Katie worked together on several research projects after graduation. Their combined expertise in quantum mechanics led to breakthroughs that neither could have achieved alone. They published papers together. They presented at conferences across the galaxy. And they became proof that former enemies could become the strongest allies. Years later, when Katie was offered a position as a professor at the Galactic Academy, she accepted without hesitation. She wanted to ensure that no future student, human or alien, would face what she had faced. She wanted to create an environment where talent was celebrated, where differences were valued, where everyone truly belonged. On her first day as a professor, she stood in the same classroom where Professor Vexlan had once taught her. She looked at the diverse group of students before her, aliens of every species, and 3 humans. "Welcome," she said with a warm smile. "Welcome to Advanced Quantum Mechanics. I know some of you may feel out of place here. Some of you may think you do not belong. But let me tell you something I learned when I was sitting where you are now. You belong here because you chose to be here, because you have the courage to learn, the determination to excel, and the wisdom to embrace what makes you different." The students listened, some with curiosity, some with nervousness, but all with attention. "This course will be challenging. It will push you to your limits. But I promise you this, I will judge you only on your effort, your growth, and your achievements, not on where you come from or how long your species has been in space. We are all equals in the pursuit of knowledge." As she began her lecture, Katie thought about her journey. From that scared 15-year-old girl facing bullies, to a respected professor shaping the next generation. Her father had been right. Humanity did protect its own. But more than that, humanity had proven itself worthy of a place among the stars. Not through force, not through intimidation, but through perseverance, through excellence, through the simple refusal to give up. That was the human way, and Katie Morrison had shown the galaxy exactly what that meant.